The world is ending. The world is ending. The day of judgment is upon us. Wait, yeah, Yom Kippur is coming up. The day of judgment happens every year. Why is everybody freaking out about the world ending? You go through it once a year, every year. Huh, that's weird. Let's talk about that as we walk together down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christo-pagan druid and a priest of Bridget.
Hello, everybody. I am Brian. I am a Christo-pagan druid and huge chef to the Dagda. I feel like we should party like it's 1999. For those of us old enough to get the reference, it's even more entertaining because we're all like, Y2K, it might end. What kind of madness is going to happen? Quick, charge everything. The banks are going to lose all your stuff. And the next day was the next day.
We got to have an end of the world party twice that year, and then the next year too. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we're going to talk about the Day of Atonement. We're going to talk about a little bit of apocalypticism. We're going to be talking about the end of the world and how it happens every year. But before we get into all that, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the words are on the podcast app that you're listening to us on. It really does help us out a lot. Plus, we've got a lot of content that's coming your way. Samhain's coming up. We've got a whole bunch of stuff planned, and we do original Christo-pagan and druid-related content every day. You don't want to miss anything. Let's get to the end of the world, shall we? Oh my goodness. This is one of the things that drives me batty, because I grew up in what I lovingly refer to as an evangelical death cult, because it was an evangelical death cult. We really, truly believed the world was going to end any day. The rapture was going to happen. Billions of people were going to be killed because angry God was going to have a temper tantrum and smack a whole bunch of people for not being nice to him. Then a second Holocaust would happen and we would all be made kings and queens in the new reality. Because if you weren't raised in evangelical Christianity, that's the plan.
It's disturbing when thought through. Like when we first got together, you were still very much in that mindset. And I was just like, whoa, cool. Like the world's going to end? Like really soon? Wow, that's really neat. And I just rolled with it because I generally just roll with things at first. And then there's moments where I'm like, wait, so this only comes about after a whole bunch of slaughter? And like, that's supposed to be a good thing? And I have questions. I have lots of questions. And
it's so much death that when you do the math, only a quarter of the population of the planet Earth gets to survive. So just to put that into context for you, based on our current population, that's 6 billion dead people.
That's a lot of slaughter.
It's not pretty. I remember people with rapturous joy in their eyes talking about how the battle's going to be so great that the blood will be up to our shoulders.
Yeah.
And talking about this like it's a good thing. This is all a radical misunderstanding of a lot of things. As we're getting ready for the celebration of Yom Kippur this weekend, the Day of Atonement, now is the time for us to really talk about the end of the world. Because we've talked about various ways to do atonement and get ready for the actual Yom Kippur coming up this weekend. And I wanted to broaden this out because when we have people in power who truly believe that there has to be a mass genocide for the world to be reborn into a beautiful, peaceful, heavenly state, there's a chance that their foreign policy will ensure global calamity. I'm not one of those people that wants a religious test for president, but there are certain questions I need to have answered.
This is where I like to distill things down into what is its nature, especially when I'm dealing with big, heavy subjects. Like a carnivore will eat meat. So therefore, when a carnivore goes and eats someone, I'm like, they eat meat. It's their nature. It's bound to happen. So if their nature is world calamity and 3/4 of everyone dead, this is what you're getting into, folks.
What is the apocalypse? The apocalypse is a way to spiritually deal with a mass collective trauma. That's it. They were not predicting future calamities. They were wrestling with the ones that they had gone through and psychologically distancing themselves from those events by using the future tense and often the present.
And story. We've talked about the power of story, healing, learning, and processing.
The earliest apocalyptic literature that we have comes into existence at around the time Alexander the Great conquers the Levant, which I'm sure was not fun for anybody there. I love the stories about Alexander the Great, but when you actually sit back and you think about, oh yeah, they just went in and mass slaughtered a bunch of people. Though I have to say, that's not always how he conquered, and that's why I find him remarkable as a historical figure, because some places he just went in and they were like, yeah, you're better than our guy. You want to take our guy out? But this is an episode about Alexander the Great. It was a massive trauma for the people in the region. It's in this time period where we see in the Zoroastrian religions that existed an interest in the Shao-Shant, this being of light who will come about at the end of the world and lead the armies of light versus the armies of darkness and save everyone. Well, when you consider that Alexander the Great was fighting Darius, the Persian king. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it makes perfect sense that the Persian Empire starts going, let's think about a blessed future where we have a divine leader. Let's from all of this. This is also about the time period where we get the first Book of Enoch. You can put it in focus, though. No, we'll do that anymore. The early books of Enoch are some of the earliest apocalyptic literature that we have, and they are apocalyptic in the most literal way. The word apocalypse literally means unveil. So what an apocalyptic text is trying to do for you is, here, let's look behind the scenes. Let's look and see the spiritual warfare that was going on. Let's try to see the forces that were fighting. And very often those stories are told in the form of a fight of good versus evil. And sometimes they're not. That's where things get really interesting. In the first Book of Enoch, what we see being told there is a story about how evil came into the world. It's people wrestling with, why do bad things happen? This is where we get our first recorded instance of, it was those fallen angels. But they're not the fallen angels you're thinking about. They're not the demons or devils. They're the Nephilim. The word Nephilim, which exists in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, to describe something related to the flood. The word Nephilim is related to the word for to fall. So this word is picked up out of that text. And these are the fallen angels that come down in what is now the Golan Heights. If you're familiar with the geography around there, they come down on the mountain, and there on that mountain, they teach people how to make war, do their makeup, astrology, all things that they wanted to say were bad were taught on the mountain.
Wait, that was TikTok? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it really.
Here's your makeup tutorials. Here's your.
In a lot of ways, it really does feel like that. And we'll be talking about this later in our episode about the devil. But again, we meet a devil in this text, but it's not the one you know. We're going to do a whole episode on Satan because
It's coming up Monday.
yeah, a lot to say there. But around the same time this book is being written, a completely different book is being written called the Book of Jubilees. This book is a recounting of basically all of world history from the time of Adam to what it considered more or less the present day. It went to every Jubilee year. So every 49 years, let's check in on planet Earth and see what's going on. In here, we meet a completely different Satan, a whole different devil in this book, who is related to the Nephilim, kinda. They get brought back up in the story. But this devil, what's being shown behind the scenes, is somebody who just believes everybody's being too self-righteous. He goes after people. He goes after God. He's just like, no, I'm tired of all this self-righteous, I'm the best crap. I'm not putting up with this. If you weren't you, this wouldn't be happening. The devil in that book is a very interesting devil. I would say much more akin to John Milton's devil in Paradise Lost. But they're trying to get to look behind the scenes. What's happening here? This was a very popular genre. The most popular book in this genre is, of course, the Book of Revelation, or the Apocalypse of St. John, that's found in the Christian New Testament, which is about Nero and Rome. It is very hard to say that this book is about anything else, because we have two versions of the original text. And that whole, you will know his name, for the number of his name, for the number of a man, and that number is, well, the fun thing is, in the one version it says 666, which is the one you probably know. The other one, it says the number is 616. The thing is, in Greek, all of the letters and numbers, like with Latin Roman numerals, were interchangeable. So you could add up the meaning of a name. There are two ways that were popular for spelling Caesar Nero's name in Greek. The difference in those spellings, one equaled 616, the other equaled 666. So what probably happened is one of the scribes went, oh, you did the math wrong, and corrected it in one of these two versions of the story. That's how it's almost for certain that it's Nero. The other events that are taking place in the story really line up to Nero as well, and the events that were going on in the Roman Empire at the time. But it very clearly is pointing at Nero, and it's them trying to deal with the tragedy of the city of Rome caught on fire. And Nero, there's this weird superstitious cult in town called Christians. They did it. This is the first major wave of persecution that fits this new movement. In their attempt to deal with this, which is what you do in trauma, you tell a story. And this is the point of apocalyptic literature. This is also why a lot of the early church fathers did not believe the book of Revelation belonged in the Bible. It was a book of its time and was not necessary. In fact, it doesn't become regularly included in versions of the New Testament until around the 8th or 9th century. Most people don't know that. They think it's like always been there. We have this idea that the Bible was always this way. It's one of the last books to get consensus to be included in the canon.
As we've covered in earlier episodes, that's also around the time when the Imperial Church starts its rise of a lot of the hellfire, brimstone, original sin teachings.
His time of Pope Gregory and all that.
All is born in that same time period.
When we're talking about apocalypsis, you can see this happening in real time. Our natural instinct when something devastating happens, a hurricane, a fire, a natural disaster, a plague, sometimes even with man-made disasters like 9/11. A lot of this actually happened around Oklahoma City. If you're old enough to remember, a lot of weird mythologizing happened around Oklahoma City when it happened.
We got to think of the rise in apocalyptic fiction right after COVID.
Yeah.
Became very popular. Fallout, all those other apocalypse shows. There's a whole slew of them that came out.
Because we're trying to deal with a mass trauma. And each person deals with that trauma differently. But collectively, we tell ourselves stories. That's what we are as a species. We are the storytelling ape. We tell stories. That's how we get through. And if we're not careful, we will start believing those stories. This is the problem with the rise of QAnon. These are people, and I'm going to say the starter of QAnon, since we pretty much know who it was, did not start it in good faith. Just the internet troll that it got way out of hand. But a lot of the people that got into QAnon were looking for a way to explain all of the strange things in their life. And they encountered this narrative at a vulnerable point in their life and unfortunately believed it was true. We can see this with a lot of these events. I remember when Oklahoma City happened, there was a rash of strange conspiracy theories that spun out from what Timothy McVeigh did. We know what he did. They captured him. They interviewed him. Like, we have the whole story from his point of view, from two of his co-conspirators' points of view. Like, we know exactly what happened. There are no real questions here. But because it was such a mass trauma for the country, we started telling stories. What we have to guard our hearts against is believing any story that eases our pain too quick, because that's often a trap. I'm not saying that stories can't be helpful to ease our pain or to ease our suffering. That's what these stories are for. There are movies that when something bad happens, I always put on. There are books that I read in times like that. That's fine. I don't then organize my life around it and try to build up a new religion thereabouts. But there's an instinct to do that, because all religion is, I'm not supposed to say this as somebody who's very much in love with religion and doing a religious podcast, but all religion is a wonderful fandom for a particular type of story. We have all agreed that we like this narrative. We like the world building that's done there, and we want to play in this world. So we're going to write fanfic. We're going to cosplay. We are going to participate in it. That doesn't mean that we're talking about things that aren't real. The thing is, the real things that we're talking about are so far beyond words that our words are just barely pointing in the right direction. And that's true for every religion. but we like this set of stories. And as long as those stories are actually helping us and helping our community and helping our friends and our neighbors and helping us to become better, more compassionate people, there's nothing wrong with those stories. And it doesn't matter what stories you're following, what stories are giving your life meaning. The only time it really matters is when you're going into a closed practice, taking it for your own from the people who have it, appropriating somebody else's stories. And we have to be very mindful. Our world today is governed by politicians, media companies, and social media platforms that need us to be afraid, scared, angry, anxious, all of the dark emotions, because that's what keeps our eyes glued to the screen. It's what keeps us doom scrolling, and it's what keeps us engaging on the platform so we see more ads.
It's part of the five poisons. It's how we are led to folly, because once that fight, flight, or freeze is triggered, we're at that point in that panic state, we're not able to get facts and details. So then when we go into that discerning process, we're not able to sit still and contemplate on whatever we're trying to discern truth from, because we're still too panicked. Because if we're sitting still, we're frozen. We're not thinking. We're paralyzed. And if we're moving, we're either moving to fight or we're moving to flight. And so then we're led into folly.
Worse than that, there is good research that shows that when tragedy strikes, when something really, truly awful happens, our inner landscape gets jostled up. A lot of the connections that we've made, our worldview disassembles and has to be rebuilt, sometimes in part, sometimes in whole. I know for me, a lot of the changes that happened in my life occurred because of 9/11. 9/11 broke my brain, and I'll never forget the moment it started getting put back together. I was living in Oakland at the time, and our mayor asked for everyone to go outside their house and light a candle at a certain time. We were going to have a citywide vigil. Don't get everybody in one place. We didn't know how many other terrorists were in the country. They didn't want large groups forming. That could become a security nightmare. So everybody just go outside of your front step, light a candle, and just hold it. The whole city. We're going to do this in the whole city. And we lived in one of the poorer areas in Oakland at the time. And I went out with my little candle and I lit it. And the wind was blowing off the bay and it kept getting blown out. All of these people, this isn't an exaggeration. I lived there long enough. I know this for a fact. The local drug dealer, the local pimp, the local enforcer for one of the religious groups that was controlling the area, all came over and held their hands over the flame to keep it lit. We all sat there together in this beautiful moment of silence, trying to keep this fire lit, trying to keep hope alive, out on the street on corner of 106 and Bancroft in Oakley, California. And that's when my mind started getting put back together, because these are all the people that, like that one guy there, he would stand on the street corner and preach about how white people are the devil. And here's this white person trying to keep this candle lit in vigil for what just happened. And he's over there helping. All of the differences between us, we probably disagreed on everything, right? But there we were together. And that moment of unity, that moment of harmony is what started putting my brain back together. Like, we can get through this together. Our differences in moments of crisis really don't matter. We can come together. All of the things that we're arguing over are just illusion. That was my apocalypse moment. It means a lot to me. When I talk to people about their spirituality, we talk a lot about spiritual awakenings. It's this glorious thing, like we opened up. I've had some of those, but I've also had these apocalypses where a friend died. Like my very first apocalyptic moment I remember was a friend of mine got shot on the way to school when I was in 5th grade. And my world ended. This 9-10-year-old kid dead. These moments of apocalypse happen, and we want to tell ourselves stories. We want to accept stories that are being told to us. We want to push away everybody's stories. Fight, flight, freeze, right? But we always have to be careful what stories we accept. We just passed the anniversary of the Hamas attacks on Israel, and that was a terrible, terrible thing. It should not have happened. And if it's not clear because of through all of my talking about how we need to come together and have peace, harmony, and love, I despise Hamas. I despise all terrorist organizations, be they individuals or governments. But in the wake of such tragedy, we have to hold on to the facts. What really happened? Not everyone is responsible. I remember what happened during 9/11, and people tried to blame all Muslims. Not all Muslims did that.
No.
We have to stick to the facts. A group of people did a bad thing. We can't turn this into a worldview. Whatever tragedy happens to us, our worldview cannot be born simply from tragedy. The world ends all the time. For the victims of school shootings, random car accidents. That's how we got Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Even just the simple passing of a parent.
Yeah.
Which happens. That's a part of life. But it can be world ending.
We have to be careful and guard ourselves what stories we let in. And that is why we have these powerful ceremonies like Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, yes, reminds us of the Day of Judgment. The Day of Judgment is coming, and we will have to answer for all that we've done, good, bad, and in between. Will we actually? I don't know. Hasn't happened yet. Not for me to speculate on. But it's a good thing to be reminded of, because I have to answer for me. I can't go in there on the Day of Judgment, whether it happens the moment I die or some future point, and say, well, this person was really, really awful to me, so that makes it okay. And this person, I just didn't like their hair color, so that makes it... No, I have to answer for my actions. Why did I do what happened?
And that's why, as a Christian, I look at Christ's teachings on this, and it is quite clear, and why this is such a great, glorious, wonderful day, but also an important day to keep in mind, because it is easy to forget. But you have to remember to forgive yourself. You have to remember to forgive others, because part of that judgment is you're going to be judged on how well you forgive others. And personally, I need lots of leniencies. Forgive yourself. Forgive others.
I feel like it's important to remember forgiveness is not holding on too tight. It doesn't mean that you forget. It doesn't mean that you erase it. But when we don't forgive, we hold on, and it becomes part of our identity. It becomes a defining thing about us, that we hate this person, or we have grievance against that person, or we want revenge against this person or group or what have you. Forgiveness is simply opening your hand. You might still be holding whatever that is, because that wound still needs to be healed. Forgiveness doesn't heal the wound. It just keeps you from driving the trauma deeper in. You have to open your hands.
I give some wonderful stories about forgiveness in a previous episode when we talked about forgiveness specifically.
Yeah.
Because it's another one of those big in-depth things.
I know this has been a heavy week, but it's the 10 days of awe.
Yep.
10 days every year to meditate and really think about how we can change our lives for the better. And the good news is we're heading towards Samhain. We're heading towards Halloween, and we have some fun, lighthearted, still like serious and important topics, but we're not going to get really this dark for a while. But it's stuff that needs to be said, and this is the best time of year to be saying. So I hope you've come along for the ride. Remember, the end is nigh. Hallelujah. It happens every year. Big wolf.
Party like it's 1999. Woo!
I really want to start saying the words to the beginning of Prince's Let's Go Crazy.
Yeah.
But copyright is what copyright is. But if you don't know the song, look it up. Purple Rain, classic album. Enough said. Alrighty, we would love to know your thoughts about this. You do not have to share your personal apocalypses, but if you've learned ways to get through it, if you have a favorite apocalyptic tale, mine's Ragnarok. I'm not a Nordic pagan, but I love the story of Ragnarok. Something about the wolves and the dragons and the great Lord of Fire and everything. Like, I don't know. There's something about it that just...
It's very good. Mine's Lord of the Rings.
I love the Dagger Daggerath. The problem is he never wrote a definitive version of it, and I get... Yeah, this is not a Tolkien podcast, but we could definitely easily start one of those. Let us know. What's your favorite apocalyptic tale? How do you deal with this time of year? How do you deal with these emotions? Let us know in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave a comment right there. Anywhere else, even if they say that you can leave a comment, they do not notify us when you do that. You can leave a comment there. That'll help us with engagement in that service. But take that comment and go over to creationspast.com, and there you click chat, and you can leave your comment in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. While you're there, you can think about joining our membership. We are going to be doing classes soon. We have, I think, a full 7, planned out that we're hoping to get started soon. I'm wanting to get some material written up for them, and we have a November project, so those will probably be starting into the next year. But when those classes do start, all of our members will get get access to them early, and then they'll go out to everybody else, because we do not believe that spiritual knowledge should be locked behind a paywall. We're here for the betterment of all. We're just trying to give members a little bit of a perk. Thank you to everybody who does that, including our newest patron, who I'm not going to say the name because I don't know if they want us to or not, but thank you so much. It means a lot to us when people support our work, because this is how we pay our bills, how we keep food on our table and a roof over our heads. So thank you so very, very much. If you want to support us somewhere else, you can support us on Ko-fi or Patreon. I am C.E. Dorset on both, and that goes to support everything I do, including the music, the fiction writing, the game development, and everything else. Thank you again to our newest patron, and thank you to everybody who is helping us out. It really does mean a lot. If you don't have any money, don't worry about it. You can help us by sharing what we're doing with other people so that they can find it, because we really are about getting the message out. That helps out tremendously. Y'all have been such a supportive community already. I can't wait to see what we can build going forward. All right. As we're ending here, may the one Spirit come into your life and open your eyes so that you may see beyond the veil to all of the spiritual activity that's going on in the unseen realms, so that you might know all of the secret demons and angels that are there to do you harm and to give you aid, so that you might navigate the course that you need to walk to get to your chosen destination. Amen.
Amen.